Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Gullah Business of Charleston. And I am the president, Nicole Pringle. And I have the vice president here, Tiffany Savage. And we have a special guest today. First of all, I've been following her before I moved to the Charleston area. So I'm extra geek right now. We have Akua Page helping us understand and learn Gullah Geechee history for Black History Month. So I'm super excited. And we're going to go right into questioning. And I'm going to ask you, Akua, who are the Gullah Geechee people?
So Gullah Geechee people, we are descendants of, I don't like to say enslaved Africans. That's what a lot of people say. I like to say we are descendants of agriculturalists that were kidnapped and brought to America, specifically the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, to cultivate various of agriculture products, especially rice, tobacco, indigo, and a lot of stuff that we still enjoy today.
Can you share with us insights into the history and the cultural significance of the Gullah Geechee people?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest cultural insights a lot of people love about is our food. As my shirt say, merely complete without a pot of rice. We eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's not because of the nature of our enslavement, but it's because of where we came from. A lot of us, we trace our ancestry. We come from that rice coast of West Central Africa, and a lot of our people, even still to this day, they also eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That is still a huge crop, but even outside of just using that as for food, it's also a spiritual connection within that. And I think also how we utilize it even here in Charleston too, or even any of the coasts within South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. If I do even speak to like some of the Gullah Geechee rice farmers, that's just a huge significant cultural impact for us. Like we have a rice identity, Like if you talk something bad about that rice, you feel like you're talking bad about us.
It's a serious thing with the rice.
That's a serious thing.
Don't mess up on it either. Don't mess up on it.
Don't want no mushy rice now.
Oh,
making rice pudding.
Yeah, don't mess up that rice. And I noticed too, with the red rice, like I'll taste like my aunt's red rice, and then I'll just compare everybody else's red rice. So I'm like, no, this ain't. I'm like, why am I comparing all the red rice? I'm like, what is going on? But if you can explain the difference of just what is Gullah and what is Geechee language?
Okay, actually, this is one of my favorite questions. So linguistically, it is considered Gullah Geechee, as a whole, but there is a difference. Gullah developed when our people were isolated on these coastal plantations, even after slavery. And so to me, Gullah is like the base of what became Gullah Geechee, and I would even argue African American vernacular English, just simply because most of Black people that came here through the nature of enslavement came through the coastal regions. And so you have, if I was to greet any of y'all in Gullah, you would hear a lot of elders say how una fadu or how hana fadu. So you would see it has a more African base structure versus Geechee that developed when we started to become more integrated into European American culture. For example, if I was to greet y'all in Geechee, we'll just say what going on. So you can hear a lot more English influences, and even just outside of Gullah Geechee, because a lot of people in the Caribbean or even as Black folk in general, to me they also be saying like what going on or what's up, stuff like that.
So this leads to the other question. What challenges do you see right now that the Gullah Geechee people are facing with preserving their heritage?
So many challenges, but I guess I'll dive into this language. Since me as an educator, I see it a lot. One of the biggest challenges I see is legitimizing our language outside of entertainment. Like a lot of people, I think they only think Gullah Geechee is acceptable in like an entertainment space. So when they want to just like laugh, kicks and giggles, but when it's like spoken in the school system, they're putting kids in special ed and speech classes, labeling them with learning disabilities. And that's a impact on the culture, because what you're doing is essentially like trying to beat the culture out of them academically. If you're telling them that the way you speaking is bad or broken, you can't separate language from identity. So you're basically telling them they're bad and they're broken. Same with the hospital systems. There's issues with, especially our elder, just going back to Gullah. Some of them still only speak strictly Gullah. So if there's something going on, let's say that they have diabetes, they're just going to say something going on with their sugar. And for some reason, these PhD doctors act like they can't. Oh, you said sugar. I don't know what that means. They act like they don't understand that they're clearly talking about, something that they may have diabetes, or you need to check their blood sugar level. And that leads to like misdiagnosis. And that can be fatal if you're giving somebody medication that they do not need. And so I think the biggest challenges right now are just legitimizing our language. It's legitimized in Harvard, which, shout out to Son Michelle, it's in there, part of the African language study program, but where Gullah Geechee developed that, whether it's, in Beaufort, I saw somebody shout out to Beaufort, any places in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, it's still not considered a legit language. They still don't even have things in places to where people can, like give them a survey, because I know for some of the kids that come in that speak English as a second language, it's only identified as with Spanish, but not with kids who speak and come in the classroom speaking Gullah Geechee. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're facing right now.
I have a
And
question.
so,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Tiff.
and so for like a lot of people that may be viewing this later on, can you give them examples of like some parts of dialect that most people would just mistaken, that like, hey, a child needs to go to a speech therapist? Could you give them an example? Because I think we hear it so many times, but for people that are not connected to the culture, they don't understand this is a dialect, this is a language. Um,
Right. Yeah.
so you can give like an example, or even some words to let people know like this is a language. So if they hear, especially if we have educators, they could be aware.
Right. I use example for when I was in the school system and there was a test. They I was working with elementary kids. And they gave them a test, one of the teachers, and one of the tests was the kids had to explain what was churn. So, as a Gullah Geechee kid, you see churn, you thinking of churn mean children. It's kids. But they were looking for churning butter. But they didn't identify, they didn't, feel like that was a miseducation on the school system part of letting them know, okay, you're looking for what this churn mean in American English, not in Gullah Geechee, because the kids are only going to go based off of what they know, and what they know is their culture. And so they unfortunately they got that question wrong. But I think that also just plays into how the the lack of culture education just among educators within the system, because a lot of people in the school system are not Gullah Geechee at all. Some of them, they never even heard about Gullah Geechee culture. So for them, they're just saying, oh, this is bad. This is broken. What do you mean? Churn doesn't mean kids. What are you talking about? Or even how a lot of them, they say that and them, because in a lot of African language systems, a TH does not exist. And so you hear that still a lot today. I think even like generally in Black languages, a lot of us, we don't say like that or like them. We cut out the THs and they say them and that. But a lot of people mistake that as broken English. And to me, I think that just goes back into like just anti-Black linguistic racism, which shout out to Dr. April Baker Bell. She wrote a book all about it. Of people not wanting to see that as a legit language, because it's easier for you to say, well, this is broken English, instead of educating yourself on to say, well, hey, why is there a large group of kids that talk like this? And to me, it's like a language is a form of communication. So people are communicating. Does that not make it a language?
I was going to ask a question that was off topic. Well, not off topic. It's off what we was talking about. Well, the question list. But I always wanted to know this because everybody talks about me. I have a passion for going back and reconnecting with my history, especially like moving down here. I'm always like, I need to know it, like every little thing, and I, going to the plantation, have family members like, why would you go there? Why would you go there? And I'm like, I learned so much just going back and looking at my third great grandfather, looking at his picture and just learning and walking the same grounds. And like, I'm so passionate about doing stuff like that. How did you become passionate about talking about Gullah Geechee history?
I would say this going back and understanding my experiences. When I was 12 years old, I actually ended up in a foster care system here in Charleston, South Carolina. And the first place I landed in was a group home called Jenkins Orphanage. I had no idea this place was significant, historical, just 12 in foster care until I got older and I started volunteering. I was like, this land is calling me for some reason. Like, it was legit. Like, I was volunteering, just going back. I'm like, why is this land calling me back? And I did my own research, and I discovered that this place was founded by a Gullah Geechee man in 1891. And so I think that experience alone, because to me, I look at it as my ancestors were looking out for me before I knew what an ancestor was. Because in one of his like quotes, like he created this place as a safe haven for Black youth. And so that's what really inspired me to be on my path to just really tell the stories of my ancestors. Because I think like a lot part of my work within storytelling is like I'm letting people know like my ancestral memories. Because a lot of stuff that I talk about is things that my ancestors like have did and done. And I feel like true death is when you forget their stories. So that experience, even though it was definitely traumatic being in foster care in Charleston, but just knowing that my ancestor, even though I'm not blood related to Jenkins, Reverend Daniel Jenkins that founded Jenkins Orphanage, but I feel like spiritually, like that's like my ancestor, the spirit. I call him like my spiritual grandfather. Because if it was not for me going through that, I would have never thought to look up the history behind Jenkins Orphanage, or even to thought about, what is an ancestor, or to just even do the work that I'm doing now, which a lot of it I have to give credit to him, because a lot of it, if it's not, whether it's farming, music, or different kind of art, even storytelling, because they had their own newspaper press, like that's really what motivated me to like, I got to keep going and let people know that we exist, and it's more to our story than just pain and trauma.
That's awesome how you were able to take something like that and drive towards your passion. Another thing too, like I appreciate the work that you do foremost, because storytelling, people sleep on it, but it carries so much weight, especially in a society now that people may not. We have all these resources here that you could research, but you'll be so surprised how many people don't take advantage of that, and they just rely on other people to tell them rather than them looking up their own information. But within a story, we have, you have lessons, you have culture, you have history. And so I just appreciate the work that you do foremost before we even continue with this. I
Yeah,
really do,
thank you.
because
I appreciate that.
it's very dope, and it's enlightening too, because if you ever hear of someone that's a professional storyteller, you'll hear the dialect, you'll hear the language, you'll hear the customs, everything will come out in one story. You don't even know, and if they're that good, you didn't even know you learned all that until you sit back and be like, okay, wow. So thank you for the work that you're doing. So I guess
Appreciate
I'll go
it.
ahead. And this is to another one too. So you cannot talk about your culture without talking about rituals and practices. And we talked about this earlier, but I loved your definition of what a ritual is, because I think people think again, that has a stigma to it that people just
Yeah,
off gate and put off. So if you could give your definition what a ritual is, so people can understand.
Definitely. So a ritual is basically something that you do like repetitively. So just like how hopefully everybody, you wake up, wash your bunkie, brush your teeth, every day. So that is a ritual, because you do that consistently when you wake up. Or even like if you pray before you go to bed or when you wake up, that is a ritual. So something that you consistently do repetitively. And one of the rituals I would say within Gullah Geechee culture that unfortunately is not too many of us doing, but I think we're coming back into it. It's just going back into the land, like reconnecting to the land, because a lot of our like ancestral memories and rituals is connected to the land, the water, things within nature. Whether it's crabbing, fishing, shrimping, farming, anything connected to where we're at. That's things that our ancestors did. Even like I talked about. Just the example within like the Gullah Geechee, how a lot of the elders sometimes they don't go to the hospital because the doctors act like they don't understand them or they misdiagnose them. So a lot of them, one of their rituals is if they have high blood pressure, they're going to go out, go to one of these oak trees, pick that Spanish moss, clean it, pray over it, and stuff it into their shoe to lower their high blood pressure. And so that's something that still goes on to this day. But unfortunately, that's another thing that people see is like, oh, it's bad. They doing that hoodoo. That's demonic. But it's like, it's really just, to me, hoodoo is the foundation of what people call herbalism here in America. because it's like these same herbs that people say was bad and ooh, the boogeyman. Like elderberry was another one of them. But now you go to Whole Foods, Walmart, you see elderberry syrup and
Everywhere.
gummies all over, and they're
That's true.
expensive.
That's true. And I know I was talking to one of my friends here, and we was in a group chat, and he was like, "Yeah, girl, I'm not feeling good. Well, come over to my house. I got some sassafras." I'm like, wait. I'm like, okay, because I'm come from New York. I'm like, oh, we wasn't using none of that. So I'm like, okay. I'm connecting. I'm like, let me know what that does. So that elderberry, all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
elderberry,
Okay.
life everlasting, which at one point Charleston, with South Carolina General, they made it seem like they banned it. Oh, it's bad, but it's like banning the oak tree. You gonna ban something that grows naturally out the ground that ain't harming nobody. But since other people who have low concentrations of melanin are now like so-called discovering the plant and the healing properties, I guess they don't care anymore.
Mm,
But a
mm,
lot of stuff we use, it comes from the earth. Like it was so funny. So I was watching because I'm like a geek at heart. I love finding out about different things. So I was watching like the craziest things. It was a show of like talk about the craziest things that a museum has, and you have to guess the origin of it. But they had an episode of Vaseline, and I had no idea Vaseline was invented because a man stepped in some crude oil and he had a deep cut and he didn't know. And so that's all Vaseline is. It comes from crude oil.
Oh wow.
They purified it, and the guy would cut himself and show people how fast he would heal. And it was like you putting dirt on you, and come to find out, a day later he would heal. So again, most of our medicines come from plants and come from natural resources. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
so I get yeah. Again, that comes with knowing your research and knowing your history. You got to find this stuff out and don't
Oh,
have other people
you
tell
know
you.
what? That goes to the next question. But I was gonna say this. I know when I was little, and my dad's from Yamasee, South Carolina, and like let's say you had a hiccup and you was just walking around, you just hiccuping the whole time. He would just rip a piece of brown paper bag, wet it a little bit, and stick it on your forehead. I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm walking around the house like, what is happening? Like, and he's like, no, put this on. I'm like, what is going on? So that kind of goes into the question, um, what what ongoing efforts are there to promote and protect Gullah Geechee heritage?
I would say the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor is doing a lot to help preserve it. A lot of different events that's definitely working, but I feel like America as a whole can do a lot more. And to me, that comes with reparations because that's how a lot, like I mentioned, a lot of our culture is connected to the land and the sea. And unfortunately, a lot of our people, which rest in peace to her, the elder who just recently passed in Hilton Head, where they were trying to like really hard to take her land away. And so I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And unfortunately, just so hard. I know just going back into rituals, like how we mentioned there's somebody used to be frying some kind of flesh, on Friday, but it's like a lot of that. It's hard to do that with our generation if a lot of us are being pushed into apartments. There's not too many places for us to even have those green spaces like how we used to do back in the day. So I feel like as far as the work of protection, I'm not really seeing too much that's being done. But what I would like to see, I guess I'm gonna speak on that, is reparations. Especially in Charleston, y'all was the capital of the slave trades. I don't see how California talk about reparations and y'all not. Just gotta say that.
That's a good question. It's like, well, you got to start somewhere else first because you skipped something. Wow. Mm.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of black people migrate, they went there for the gold rush too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is wild. But, you know, that is a question to think of. Because I heard how
I
much they
thought
would go
about
give
it,
up.
and I
And
was like, wait a
whoa.
second.
Yeah,
Now, how you just
like,
skip?
what? Okay. But that's something to think about. And in California, if they successful in doing all that, then these other states are gonna have to follow suit. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. People like, especially in the South, you're not gonna do that because truthfully,
Okay.
you never got your 40 acres and a mule. You really never
Mm-mm.
did.
Mm-mm.
So, but this goes to another question that we wanted to ask: what's the significance of storytelling in the Gullah Geechee culture? So we touched on earlier, but we know you gonna have it all together because this is what you do. This is your passion right here. So, what if someone was to ask you, why is it so important to tell these stories? What would you say?
I would say it's so important because just going back to like ancestral memory, it's the way of keep that connection going with our ancestors, and this is also how they passed on our culture. Because it was illegal for them to read and write, even though some of them they still did it, they read it. But a lot of how we know a lot of what's Gullah Geechee culture today is through storytelling. And a lot of that was an act of resistance because they thinking we just having communication, they thinking we just singing songs, but really, them songs held stories and messages within that. That was either an escape route or a plan to let you know like what we plan on doing. And so to me, like just the essence of storytelling is just so important for us to keep our culture going, keep us connected to the divine, to the ancestors, and also just to control the narrative. Cause like I mentioned earlier about just some of our like herbalisms that we utilize in Gullah Geechee culture, life everlasting was something, that people consider, oh, that's bad, that's the roots, that's the devil, that's witchcraft. But since people low melanin is using it now, it's good. I think I even saw an article of some girl that's not even from Charleston, somebody with low concentration of melanin on the island saying she discovered this plant. I'm like, how you discover something that we've been knew about? And so it's like, to me, it's so important also that we control the narrative of our own story. Because if somebody else gonna tell it, then it's like they're gonna tell it their way.
That's true. That's
That
true.
is true. And it
Hmm.
just makes sense too if you have a group of people that lived off the land before there was all this, all this technology. They lived off the land. Wouldn't it make sense that they found medicine from the land and resources to help them? It's just,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but again, wow.
And
But
they were already, they were already doctors and healers and everything, so they already knew what works, and then
Mm-hmm.
whatever else they found here, So that's the stories that they don't tell, and that's when I go back to the plantation, everybody's like, "Why you keep coming? Why you keep going back?" Because I learned something new
find
every
something
time,
Yes.
Every
It's
time
a
I'm like,
lot.
I didn't know
and I
that.
was, yeah,
Like I didn't
and I
know
was
about Sea
studying.
Island cotton. I didn't know about the difference,
Mhm,
and because when I thought about cotton, when I used to see, especially in North Carolina, it was like it didn't grow that high. And then when I went to the
mhm.
plantation, it was like, oh, it grew over 10 feet. And I'm looking at the picture, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And
Yeah, because in
you
North
have to
Carolina,
know,
we
that's
keep it
engineering
short.
to know that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know how to grow that. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know
And
how
I
to
would
do
say
nothing.
even me back on, because I visit plantations too, and people think I'm crazy. 'Cause I usually be the
Mm-hmm.
only black one, but I'm just like you said, it's a lot of history there. Because at one of the plantations, I discovered our people even instrumented like this candle making. Like we were like a lot of the women were enslaved, and that was the task that they did. But they were already doing that. They brought that over: candle making, soap making, like a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff that we may not dominate within the industry now because to me we're just pushed out or we don't have access to it, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us were involved in those particular processes, but we don't know that because that's just not, it's not talked about. We're not in front of that story, that narrative. So like I mentioned before, like the farm to table movement, I feel like we should be like the faces of it because who was the one on the farms? But
Mhm.
we're not the main one that's the face of it. If anything, our culture is deemed, oh, y'all food is bad. And I'm just like, but who taught you how to grow that food and raise that chicken?
Mhm. And someone in the comments put basket weaving. Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
that's a deep one right there. That right there. Because you find a lot of cultures don't get credit for basket weaving, especially of patterns. Because when you go in Charleston and certain places in South Carolina, you see distinct patterns, and it always comes to me like, who did this? And it's sometimes hard to find out who actually did it because it's like it's an undertone they don't really talk about too much. But you have to go to these places like plantations and museums to find out about it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think like
Mm-hmm.
that's what sets South Carolina apart because even though it has like this deep rooted history of pain, they do a good job preserving it so people can go back and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only place I know you could go to a plantation that like look, they have a garden there. They'll have all these events there, and they preserve the stuff so people can look at it. I've never
Mm-hmm.
been no other place before. Last time I went to South Carolina, we went to a library that was like from the 1800s, and they had books out there, not in cases like in North Carolina. They keep our stuff top notch locked up, but these books were right there for anybody to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah. Somebody said in the
That
comments the
library
Penn
in Somerville.
Center.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? What'd you say now?
You remember that library in Somerville
Uh
that we went to? Yep.
huh. Somebody said the Penn Center. I went there 20. What was that? We had a family reunion. 2022. Yeah, I went there in 2022. Yeah, that was good. I got to go back actually.
Yeah, they actually have. I went there last year. I'm going again this year. They're holding the Black Farmers Conference.
Mm,
Next month actually. Definitely recommend
okay.
um to check that out.
Yeah, I definitely got to go back. I was there. I'm telling you, I've just been trying to go back. I'm going back in time, and I went really far back in time now. So I'm like, I want to do a documentary one day. Like, I just want to go and do that. That's one of my goals. But let me get back to this. So how can we bring awareness and understanding of the Gullah Geechee people and culture?
I think just the work you're doing right now, having different people on, because we're also, we're not a monolith as far as like being Gullah Geechee. Like I mentioned, a lot of people that come down here, they ask me, "Oh, can you speak that Gullah?" I'm just like, I can speak some Geechee, but I don't, because to me, it would be fake since I didn't grow up speaking this strictly Gullah. But I think a lot of people have a misconception, or they think that all of us was raised on a farm. I'm just like, listen, I grew up in the projects of North Charleston, Section 8 housing. Like, that's something I'm going back to as an adult. So I think just by having these conversations, because a lot of people, when they think of Gullah Geechee, they still think of Gullah Gullah Island. I even had, listen, if I had $1 for so many people that asked me to take them to Gullah Gullah Island, I would be rich.
I had to explain that to people too. I was like,
I would be a wealthy woman. But yeah, I think just having conversations so people can also know that we're not a monolith. A lot of us, we're Gullah Geechee, but we have different experiences, even regionally. Because for me being in North Charleston, my experience as a Gullah Geechee person is different from somebody who was born and raised in downtown Charleston, or West Ashley, or James, John Island, Wamala. It's different depending on where the person, was raised in and raised at.
okay.
Oh, somebody in the comments said they know the
Mm-hmm.
the parents from Gullah Gullah
I
Island. That's it.
reached
Listen, I
out to
love them.
them. I reached
I
out to
love
them.
them.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
reached out to them. We gonna say that we're gonna get that interview as well. I ordered one of the cakes from Mr. Round Days. It was good too.
Yeah, I met them
Those
so
pound
many
cakes.
times.
Mm.
Yes. Ron, I called him Gullah Dad and Gullah Mama. I love them. They are like amazing people. Because like sometimes you meet people like you watch something, they got a little stink nasty attitude, but that was never the vibe with them. Like they have such a beautiful, just solar energy. Sarah as well, their daughter. Just a really beautiful
Yeah,
family.
that cake was amazing. I was like, oh, I gotta get that. I gotta order
I
another
was
one when
supposed
you
to be
get here,
there.
Tiff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was supposed to be there and have a piece of the cake. Thank you.
It was good. It's not gonna be here when you get here, so I'll just order another one. When you get here, we'll eat that one too.
You know, saying you like, well, you did warn me about the cake. You
That's
did.
my favorite though, and I had to order it from him too because that was just gonna bring everything full circle. For me, my childhood, I'm like, okay, I got to do that. So yeah, I did. I'll order another one for you. But what other projects are you working on, and how can you be reached?
Ooh, so many. One, I know y'all mentioned documentary, so if y'all want to link up, we can. Cause me and my homegirl, we're actually working on one ourselves as well. We're going to be for this month actually to also interview some folks out there. Because Gullah Geechee culture is spread out. That's also I wanted to mention. Even though the corridor is the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, y'all, the Great Migration happened. So Gullah Geechee culture is not just what's on the map, and also unfortunately gentrification happened. So like Gullah Geechee is not just limited to like the coastal regions. We all over the world at this point. But I'll say one of the many projects that we are working on is the documentary, and I have a juice company called Fut Nuss, because and also in our dialect, anything with an I and an E, with how we express it becomes a U. So fish become fush, and fitness become Fut Nuss. And so that's my smoothie and juice bar. So I'm working on getting a physical location because where I was raised and grew up in North Charleston, we don't have access to fresh fruit and vegetables. So one of my goals is to just open up our own space so we can have access to to that, because I think that's contributing to a lot of the diabetes and high blood pressure, because we just don't have access to that. But I can be reached on social media. I'm on Instagram, Geechee got a Akua. I'm on TikTok, Geechee got a Akua. I be cutting up on TikTok though, y'all, so be mindful. But yeah, I'm really all over. Y'all can get me. I do tours, book a tour on Airbnb, Gullah Geechee Adventures, and check out the Gullah Geechee diaspora flag. It has been installed in the museum in Charleston. It was installed, I want to say, last week. So yeah, make sure
Yeah, I'm
y'all
waiting
go ahead and check it out.
on my flag. I was gonna have it behind me, and I was like, oh yeah. So yeah, I'm waiting on that. Yep.
You should
Yep.
you should get it this week.
Okay.
You should get that this week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yes.
Please return back, especially after you get everything going with your location and stuff like that. We would like to hear the good work that you're doing,
Oh
especially the fact that you're gonna be in Charleston
yeah,
like that. Please hit
we
us
just gonna
up.
pull up too.
Yeah.
We definitely gonna pull up.
Yes. So yes, please do. Giving out juice shots like I'm Oprah. Please do.
I'm telling you. So this is our favorite final question. Tiffany, am I doing this question?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Okay, I
do.
am.
You
See, I'm
got
getting out
it.
of my comfort zone, guys. I'm actually speaking. So I'm doing good. Well, I'm just excited because I've been following you for a while. So I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. Um, what 3 words would you use to describe the Gullah Geechee people?
I would say 3 words is black diaspora is what always just come to mind, because I feel like we're the babies of the black diaspora in America. And that was 2 words, black diaspora. I guess the last one would be power. I feel like it's power. Or if I would replace it, I would say magical. Because I feel like the fact that our people survived slavery, because I just do not know how, and we're still here. We exist right now. I feel like we are walking miracles. So yeah, I would say those 3 words I feel like will describe Gullah Geechee is magical black diaspora.
Oh, I love that.
Wow, that is awesome.
I love that. I love that so much. Yep. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm waiting for that juice bar. I'm waiting for that. I'm telling you, we're gonna pull
And I
up. You
want
gotta
to go
come
on a
on.
tour. I want to
You know what, Nathan?
do a tour.
Yes,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. That'd be good.
Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
come down. I'm actually doing the free one at the end of, I want to say, the last Saturday of February. So if y'all come to Charleston, we got 2 spots left. Just come on down.
Now how we can do that now? What we
The
do?
link is, if y'all go to the Avery Research Center, y'all know what that is, right? Avery Research Center. Y'all heard
Was it
about them?
downtown?
It's downtown, but they also have an Instagram page. Just go on their Instagram
Okay.
page and you can go to it on there. But I'll find the link and
Oh,
give it to y'all. But we got 2 spots left.
Please
But yeah.
okay.
do.
Okay. All right, we're gonna
Yes,
check that out.
yes. Well, thank y'all so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I'm telling you, I was hyped about this.
Yes, don't be a stranger.
Oh no, don't. Hey, anytime you got anything going on, anything you want to, the people to know about, please just DM, and we just schedule it and come right back. But we just want to say thank you for everybody watching.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
Stay tuned for future projects and interviews. If you are a Black-owned business or if you know one, please DM us or share a tag and reach out to us so we can set up an interview. We would love to interview you. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube page. And am I forgetting anything else, Tiffany?
No,
I'm doing good today.
you doing it. You
I'm
doing
doing
it. And
it.
thank you again to our guests for coming up here. We were excited that you joined us. You just don't understand. We were ecstatic. It's right there. We have someone, you know, they live and breathe this, they're going to educate some people. And thank you again. We thank you. Hopefully I can pull up on you really soon. So
Definitely.
let's go.
Y'all just
Let's
let me know
go.
ahead of time so I can give y'all some a smoothie or juice. I infuse it with Life Everlasting. So y'all get the whole shebang
Okay.
in a bottle.
Okay. All right. So thank you guys again for watching. And until next time, make sure you like, follow, and share. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Y'all have a good night.